Jake Morrison straightened his blue diplomatic uniform and checked his watch. Today would mark the first official cultural exchange between humanity and the Galactic Council. After 3 years of careful negotiations, Earth had finally earned a seat at the table with 12 other alien species. The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in neutral territory, far from any star system. Its gleaming metal corridors stretched for miles in every direction. Jake had been walking these halls for 2 weeks now, preparing for this moment. As Earth's ambassador, he carried the hopes of 8 billion humans on his shoulders. Ambassador, Morrison, are you ready? Lisa Barnes appeared beside him carrying a large wooden case. The xenobiologist had spent months selecting the perfect items to represent human culture. Her brown hair was tied back in a neat bun, and her green eyes sparkled with excitement. As ready as anyone can be for making first impressions with 12 alien species, Jake replied with a nervous smile. What did you finally decide to bring? Lisa patted the wooden case. Music recordings, art samples, literature translations, and some food items. I thought spices would be interesting since most species seem curious about human eating habits. They entered the main council chamber, a circular room with a dome ceiling that showed the stars outside. 12 raised platforms surrounded the center, each designed for a different alien species. Jake had studied them all, but seeing them in person still took his breath away. The Vorthak minister looked like a giant lizard walking upright. His scales were dark green, and his yellow eyes followed Jake's every movement. Minister Zex Cole had been one of the most vocal supporters of allowing humans into the council. His people valued strength and courage above all else. The Selenite minister stood on a platform made of crystal. Her body looked like living diamond, reflecting light in rainbow patterns across the chamber walls. Minister Yithvar's people were ancient and wise, often serving as mediators in council disputes. Jake counted the others as he walked to the center. The insect-like hive collective minister buzzed softly, his compound eyes watching everything at once. The gaseous nebular Federation minister floated in a containment field, his body shifting between purple and blue clouds. The aquatic flowing ones minister sat in a water tank, her gills moving slowly as she breathed. Welcome, human representatives. Minister Yithvar's voice rang out like crystal bells. Today we celebrate the joining of a new species to our council. Please, show us what your people treasure most. Jake stepped forward and bowed slightly. Thank you for accepting humanity into this great alliance. We bring gifts that represent who we are as a species. Lisa opened the wooden case and began removing items. She held up a small device that projected holographic images of Earth's greatest artworks. The aliens leaned forward with interest, especially when the Mona Lisa appeared floating in the air. Next came music. Lisa activated a player that filled the chamber with Mozart's Symphony No. 9. The beautiful notes echoed off the dome ceiling. Several ministers made sounds that Jake guessed were expressions of pleasure or approval. Fascinating, rumbled Minister Grokdal of the United Clans. The large, furry alien looked like a cross between a bear and a wolf. Your species creates beauty without purpose beyond the beauty itself. Art and music help us express emotions and share experiences, Jake explained. They connect us to each other across time and distance. Lisa saved the food items for last. She pulled out a wooden spice rack filled with small glass containers. Each bottle was labeled clearly in multiple languages, including the common galactic script that all council members could read. These are flavor enhancers that humans use to make food more enjoyable, Lisa said, holding up the rack. We call them spices. They come from various plants that grow on Earth. Minister Zexkol's tongue flicked out to taste the air. Interesting. The Vorthak people use salt and bitter roots, but nothing more. Your species seems to enjoy complexity in all things. May we examine these substances? Asked Dr. Rixmon, the chief medical officer. The aquatic alien's voice bubbled through his translation device. Our scanners detect no harmful compounds, only organic plant materials. Jake glanced at Lisa, who nodded. Of course, but I should warn you that some of these might be too strong for non-human digestive systems. We've been eating these plants for thousands of years. Lisa pointed to each bottle in turn. Black pepper adds heat and sharpness. Cinnamon brings sweetness and warmth. Nutmeg has an earthy flavor. Paprika gives color and mild heat. And this? Red powder is from our hottest peppers. We call it Carolina Reaper powder. The aliens exchanged looks and made various sounds that the translation devices couldn't interpret. Jake recognized curiosity when he saw it, even on alien faces. Your species consumes plant defensive chemicals for pleasure? Minister Kithzar of the Hive Collective clicked his mandibles together rapidly. This behavior is unknown among council species. Plants evolved these compounds to stop animals from eating them, Lisa explained. But humans learn to enjoy the sensations they create. We even compete to see who can handle the strongest spices. Minister Veltron's gaseous form shifted to a bright orange color. Competition through consumption of deterrent chemicals, remarkable. Your species displays unusual adaptation patterns. The demonstration continued as Lisa explained human cooking methods and showed pictures of various dishes. The aliens asked many questions about human digestion, taste preferences, and food culture. Jake began to relax as the exchange proceeded smoothly. Ambassador Morrison. Minister Yithvar's crystalline voice drew everyone's attention. Your species has shared much with us today. Art, music, literature, and now these intriguing food customs. We are honored by your openness. The honor is ours, Jake replied formally. Humanity looks forward to learning from all council species and contributing to galactic peace. The other human gifts were distributed among the ministers. Data crystals, containing human history, samples of Earth materials, and recordings of different human languages. Each alien species had brought their own cultural treasures to share. As the formal presentations ended, Jake felt a wave of relief. The first meeting had gone better than he had dared hope. The aliens seemed genuinely interested in human culture, and no one had raised concerns about humanity's fitness for council membership. Lisa was carefully packing away the remaining spice samples when Minister Yithvar made an announcement that would change everything. I propose we conclude this ceremony with our traditional unity tasting, the crystal being declared. Each species will sample the other's cultural foods as a symbol of trust and acceptance. The chamber filled with approving sounds from multiple species. Jake felt his stomach tighten with worry, but before he could object, the other ministers were already agreeing to the proposal. The unity tasting would begin in 1 hour. The council chamber buzzed with activity as preparations for the unity tasting began. Jake watched with growing concern as alien staff members set up sampling stations around the room. Each species had brought food items from their homeworld, and now they would all taste each other's offerings. Lisa, are you sure this is safe? Jake whispered as they stood near their display table. The spice rack sat innocently among the other human cultural items, but Jake couldn't shake his worry. The medical officer scanned everything twice, Lisa replied. Though she didn't sound entirely confident, all the readings came back normal. No toxins, no harmful bacteria, nothing dangerous by galactic standards. Minister Yithvar approached their station, her crystalline form catching the chamber's lights. Ambassador Morrison, Dr. Barnes, we are excited to experience human flavor enhancement. The concept is new to most council species. Minister, I really think we should start with very small amounts, Jake said carefully. Human spices can be quite intense, even for humans. Your concern is noted. Dr. Rixmon bubbled as he joined the conversation. His aquatic form moved smoothly in his mobile water tank. However, our medical analysis shows these substances pose no threat to council species. They are simply dried plant matter with various organic compounds. Jake wanted to argue, but he knew he couldn't insult the council's medical expertise on his first day. Earth needed this alliance too badly to risk offense over spice samples. The other species had arranged their own food offerings on separate tables. The Vorthak had brought strips of dried meat that smelled like sulfur. The Selenites offered crystallized minerals that sparkled like gems. The Hive Collective's contribution looked like honeycomb, but smelled strongly of ammonia. Fascinating diversity, Lisa observed, walking between the tables. Each species has evolved completely different nutritional needs and taste preferences. Minister Grokdul of the United Clans sniffed near the human spice display. His bear-like nose twitched as he sampled the air. These scents are very strong. My people use simple seasonings, but nothing with this intensity. That's exactly what I'm worried about, Jake muttered. The ceremony began with Minister Yithvar explaining the Unity tasting tradition. For 3,000 galactic standard years, new council members have participated in this ritual. By sharing food, we share trust. By accepting each other's sustenance, we accept each other as family. Jake felt the weight of history and responsibility. This wasn't just about spices anymore. It was about humanity's place in the galactic community. Each minister will select 3 volunteer representatives to sample the newcomers' offerings, Dr. Rixmon announced. Medical staff will monitor all participants for any adverse reactions. 3 aliens stepped forward to volunteer. Minister Kithzar of the Hive Collective moved with insect-like precision, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber lights. His exoskeleton was a deep brown color and his 4 arms ended in delicate claws. Minister Veltron of the Nebular Federation floated in his containment field, his gaseous body shifting between purple and blue. Jake had read that his species absorbed nutrients through their skin-like outer membrane, rather than eating solid food. The 3rd volunteer was Minister Grokdul himself. The large, furry alien had insisted on participating despite his people's reputation for having sensitive digestive systems. I suggest starting with the mildest option, Lisa said quickly, pointing to the paprika. This red powder has the least heat of all our spices. Dr. Rixmon used a small measuring device to portion out tiny amounts, barely a pinch for each volunteer. These quantities are microscopic compared to normal serving sizes. Even if there were unexpected reactions, the amounts are too small to cause lasting harm. Jake watched nervously as the 3 ministers approached the sampling station. Media. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered to record this historic moment. Cameras and recording devices focused on the human spice display. For the record, Lisa announced loudly, humans typically use these spices in very small quantities mixed with other foods. We don't usually consume them directly. Minister Kithzar picked up his sample of paprika with 1 delicate claw. Direct consumption will provide the purest experience of human flavor enhancement, he clicked. My species values authenticity above comfort. Minister Veltron's gaseous form extended a tendril toward his sample. The Nebular Federation approaches. New experiences with scientific curiosity. This will expand our understanding of solid matter nutrition. Minister Grokdul sniffed his sample cautiously. His large nostrils flared and his ears twitched back slightly. The scent is intense. But the United Clans do not back down from challenges. The chamber fell silent as the 3 volunteers prepared to consume their samples. Jake noticed that the other ministers had stopped their conversations to watch. Even the usually busy medical staff paused their equipment checks. On my count, Dr. Rixmon bubbled. 3, 2, 1. Minister Kithzar placed the paprika on his mandibles and worked it into his mouth. Minister Veltron absorbed his sample through his outer membrane. Minister Grokdul licked the powder off his claw with his large tongue. For the first few seconds, nothing happened. The 3 ministers showed no immediate reaction. Jake began to relax slightly, thinking maybe his worries had been unfounded. Minister Yithvar's crystal form chimed softly. How do you find the human flavor enhancement? Initial sensation is mild, Minister Kithzar clicked. There is a slight warming effect on my taste receptors. Interesting molecular structure, Minister Veltron commented, his form shifting to a lighter purple. I detect complex organic compounds that my species has never encountered. The taste is unusual, Minister Grokdul said slowly. There is heat building in my mouth, but it is not unpleasant yet. Jake checked his watch. 10 seconds had passed. The paprika should be taking effect about now if it was going to affect them at all. He held his breath and watched the 3 volunteers carefully. At 15 seconds, Minister Kithzar's compound eyes began to dilate. His exoskeleton started to show a faint tremor. At 20 seconds, Minister Veltron's gaseous form began cycling through colors more rapidly than before. purple to blue to green and back again. At 25 seconds, Minister Grokdul dropped to one knee, his large paw clutching at his throat. "Something is wrong," Jake said loudly, stepping toward the volunteers. The medical alarms began to sound at 30 seconds. By 35 seconds, all three ministers were in obvious distress. The chamber erupted into chaos as medical teams rushed forward and the other ministers called out in their various languages. Jake grabbed Lisa's arm. "What did we do?" "I don't know," she replied, her face pale with shock. "It was just paprika. Just paprika." The chaos in the council chamber reached a fever pitch as the medical emergency unfolded. Jake watched in horror as the three volunteer ministers continued to deteriorate before his eyes. Minister Kithzar's trembling had become violent shaking. His compound eyes were now completely dilated, reflecting light in wild patterns. The insect-like alien's four arms flailed helplessly as his exoskeleton began to show stress fractures along the joints. Strange clicking sounds came from deep in his throat. Not his normal speech patterns, but something that sounded like distress calls. "Get the neural stabilizers," Dr. Rixmon shouted to his medical team. His aquatic form moved frantically in his mobile tank as he tried to coordinate the emergency response. "And bring the universal antidote compounds." Minister Veltron's condition was equally alarming. The gaseous alien's normally controlled form had become chaotic swirls of color. Purple, blue, green, red, and yellow clouds mixed violently within his containment field. His communication device sparked and failed as his form became too unstable to maintain contact with the electronics. But Minister Grokdul's reaction was the most frightening. The large, bear-like alien had collapsed completely, his massive body convulsing on the chamber floor. His breathing had become rapid and shallow, and foam appeared around his mouth. His normally brown fur was standing on end, and his eyes had rolled back until only the whites showed. 40 seconds, Dr. Rixmon announced, consulting his medical scanner. All three subjects are experiencing severe neurological distress. Jake pushed forward through the crowd of panicking aliens and medical staff. "What can we do to help? There must be something." "Stay back, human." Commander Rextor of the Galactic Peace Force had arrived with security personnel. The tall, blue-skinned alien pointed a weapon-like device at Jake. "You have poisoned 3 council ministers." "It was an accident," Lisa cried out, tears streaming down her face. "The medical scans showed it was safe. It's just paprika. Humans eat it every day." The medical teams worked desperately over the 3 collapsed ministers. Alien doctors Jake couldn't identify rushed in with equipment he had never seen before. Tubes, wires, and glowing devices were attached to the victims as the medical staff fought to save their lives. 50 seconds! Dr. Rixmon's voice was becoming frantic. "Minister Kithzar's nervous system is approaching complete failure. Minister Veltron's molecular cohesion is breaking down. Minister Grokdul is going into toxic shock. Minister Yithvar's crystal form was pulsing with rapid light patterns." What Jake had learned was a sign of extreme distress among her people. "This cannot be happening. Not during Unity tasting. Not to our newest member species." The other council ministers had backed away from the central area, but none had left the chamber. Jake could see fear in their alien faces. Fear of the unknown, fear of death, and fear of the humans who had somehow brought this disaster upon them. 55 seconds, Dr. Rixmon announced. Minister Kithzar's exoskeleton cracked audibly. A green fluid that Jake guessed was his blood began seeping from the fractures. The insect alien's movements became even more erratic before suddenly stopping completely. Minister Veltron's swirling form began to separate into distinct colored clouds. His containment field sparked as it struggled to keep his gaseous body together. The purple component of his being seemed to be dissolving into the air despite the field's best efforts. Minister Grokdul's convulsions reached a peak and then stopped abruptly. His massive body went completely limp on the chamber floor. The medical scanners attached to him began making flatline sounds that needed no translation. 60 seconds. Dr. Rixmon's voice cracked as he announced the time. At that exact moment, all 3 ministers went completely still. The chamber fell into dead silence except for the sounds of alien medical equipment and the soft sobbing coming from Lisa Barnes. Minister Kith Zar lay motionless, his cracked exoskeleton no longer reflecting light. His compound eyes had gone, completely dark, and the strange clicking sounds from his throat had stopped. Minister Veltron's gaseous form had separated completely into its component colors, each cloud floating independently within his containment field. The purple, blue, and green sections no longer moved together or responded to outside stimuli. Minister Grokdal's large body was completely still on the chamber floor. His breathing had stopped, his eyes remained rolled back, and foam continued to seep from his mouth. "Are they?" Jake couldn't finish the question. Dr. Rixmon was scanning all three ministers with various medical devices. His tentacled hands moved quickly over the controls while his large eyes studied the readouts. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, he looked up from his equipment. "They are alive," he announced. "But barely. All three have suffered massive neurological trauma. Their bodies have shut down to prevent further damage." Commander Rex Tor stepped forward, his weapon still pointed at the humans. "Ambassador Morrison, Dr. Barnes, you are under arrest for attempted assassination of Galactic Council ministers." "Wait!" Minister Yithvar's crystal voice rang out. "There was no malicious intent. The humans warned us about potential reactions. They attempted to prevent this tragedy." "The medical scans showed no toxins," Dr. Rixmon protested. "By all our scientific knowledge, those substances should have been harmless." Jake felt the weight of 8 billion human hopes crushing down on him. In 60 seconds, a simple cultural exchange had become an interstellar incident that could destroy humanity's future in the galaxy. "Commander," Jake said formally, "I surrender myself for investigation. But please let Dr. Barnes help your medical teams. She knows more about these substances than anyone." Lisa wiped her tears and nodded. "I'll do anything to help them. Anything. At all." Emergency alarms continued to sound throughout the station as news of the disaster spread. Jake could see alien staff members running through the corridors outside the chamber. Communication devices were buzzing with reports in dozens of languages. "Get them to the medical bay immediately," Dr. Rixmon ordered his teams. "Use full life support and prepare for extended treatment. These three ministers will require intensive care for an unknown duration." As the medical teams carefully moved the three unconscious ministers onto floating stretchers, Jake realized that this was only the beginning. Word of this incident would spread across the galaxy within hours. Humanity had just accidentally poisoned 3 alien ministers with something as simple as paprika. The political implications would be catastrophic. The medical bay on Nexus Prime had been transformed into an emergency treatment center. Jake stood under guard outside the main treatment room, watching through transparent walls as teams of alien doctors worked frantically to save the 3 poisoned ministers. Commander Rex Tor paced back and forth in the corridor, his blue skin darker than usual, a sign of stress in his species. 12 hours since the incident and still no improvement, he muttered. The Galactic News Network is calling it the biggest diplomatic disaster in Council history. Jake had been questioned for 6 straight hours by investigators from multiple species. The same questions over and over. Did humans plan this attack? Was the paprika a biological weapon? How many other human foods were actually poisons? Ambassador Morrison, Dr. Rixmon's voice bubbled through the medical bay speakers. Please join us inside. We need your expertise. Commander Rex Tor nodded grimly and escorted Jake into the treatment room. The sight inside made Jake's stomach turn. The 3 ministers lay on specialized medical beds, connected to more tubes and wires than he could count. Minister Kithzar's cracked exoskeleton had been carefully repaired with some kind of alien medical cement, but his compound eyes remained dark and unresponsive. Green fluid still seeped slowly from various joints despite the doctor's efforts. Minister Veltron existed in a specialized containment chamber that kept his separated gaseous components from drifting apart completely. The purple, blue, and green clouds moved randomly within the chamber, showing no signs of the intelligence that had once controlled them. Minister Grokdal's massive form was barely breathing with the help of mechanical assistance. His fur had turned gray in patches, and various medical devices monitored his failing organ systems. "The situation is worse than we initially believed," Dr. Rixmon explained, his aquatic form moving nervously in his tank. "The substance you call paprika contains a compound called capsaicin. This molecule binds to neurological receptors in ways we have never encountered." Lisa Barnes looked up from a computer terminal where she had been working with alien medical staff. Her eyes were red from crying and lack of sleep. "I've been trying to explain human spice tolerance to their medical computers, but the concept doesn't translate well." Dr. Sam Collins had arrived 6 hours ago on an emergency transport from Earth. The elderly human doctor stood beside one of the alien medical computers, shaking his head in disbelief. "In humans, capsaicin triggers pain receptors but causes no actual damage. We experience it as heat or burning, but our bodies can handle it safely. But in alien physiology?" Jake asked, though he feared the answer. "Complete neurological overload," Dr. Rixmon replied. "Their nervous systems have no evolutionary defense against capsaicin. The molecule essentially hijacked their neural pathways and caused a cascade failure." A new alien entered the medical bay, one Jake didn't recognize. This being was tall and thin with silver skin and large black eyes. Dr. Collins stepped forward to make introductions. "This is Dr. Nexil, the Galactic Council's chief xenobiologist," Dr. Collins explained. "She's been analyzing human dietary habits since the incident." Dr. Nexil's voice was melodic but cold. "Dr. Collins, your species' eating habits are disturbing to most galactic civilizations. We have analyzed your food samples and found multiple compounds that would be classified as biological weapons by Council standards." She activated a holographic display showing molecular structures. "Capsaicin from your peppers, neurological, poison. Theobromine from your chocolate, cardiac toxin. Caffeine from your coffee, cellular stimulant that would kill most species. Ethanol from your alcoholic beverages, literally a cellular poison." Jake stared at the display in shock. "But humans consume all of these regularly without harm." "That is precisely what makes your species so alarming," Dr. Nexil replied. "You have evolved to not just tolerate these toxins, but to seek them out for pleasure. Your biology suggests an adaptation to an extremely hostile environment." Lisa looked up from her computer work. "Earth is more dangerous than most inhabited worlds. We've had to evolve defenses against plants, animals, diseases, and environmental hazards that would kill most galactic species." Commander Rextor had been listening quietly, but now he stepped forward. "The political implications are severe. News of this incident has reached every corner of the galaxy. Alien governments are demanding explanations. Some are calling for humanity's expulsion from the Council." Dr. Rixmon's form moved agitatedly in his tank. "But there are also unexpected developments. The Hazardous Materials Guild has sent representatives. Several military organizations have inquired about human capabilities. Some species are fascinated rather than frightened." A communication device chimed, and Minister Yithvar's crystalline form appeared as a hologram. "Ambassador Morrison, I am addressing you from an emergency council session. The situation has developed beyond simple medical emergency." "What do you mean, Minister?" Jake asked. "3 things have happened in the past 6 hours, the crystal being explained. First, 17 alien cargo ships have changed course to avoid human space, fearing contamination by human food supplies. Second, the stock exchanges on 5 major worlds have suspended trading in human commodities. Third, and most surprisingly, we have received 47 requests for human assistance with hazardous cleanup operations across the galaxy." Jake blinked in confusion. "Cleanup operations?" Minister Yithvar's hologram flickered slightly. "It appears that your species' ability to consume toxic substances has given some governments an idea. If humans can safely ingest compounds that would kill other species, perhaps you can also safely handle industrial toxins, radioactive materials, and biological hazards." Dr. Collins laughed bitterly. "They want to use us as living hazmat suits." "The irony is not lost on the Council," Minister Yithvar admitted. "A species that accidentally poisons ministers with food seasoning might be the solution to galactic waste disposal problems." Suddenly, one of the medical monitors began beeping rapidly. Minister Kithzar's body was showing new activity. His compound eyes were beginning to reflect light again. Dr. Rixmon rushed to the insect alien's bedside. He is regaining consciousness. Minister Kithzar, can you understand me? A weak clicking sound came from the minister's throat. The translation device crackled to life with a mechanical voice. Pain, burning, but alive. Minister, you have been unconscious for 12 hours, Dr. Rixmon explained gently. You experienced severe neurological trauma from consuming human spice. The clicking sounds continued and the translator worked to convert them. Human, food, is weapons. How do they survive this daily? Jake stepped forward carefully. Minister Kithzar, I am deeply sorry for what happened. We never intended to harm you. The insect alien's eyes focused on Jake with difficulty. Not your fault. Our ignorance of human biology. Nearly fatal mistake. Dr. Nexil made notes on her device. This reaction supports our hypothesis. Human dietary evolution represents adaptation to toxin exposure that would be lethal to most galactic species. Minister Veltron's containment chamber began showing signs of activity as well. The separated gaseous clouds were slowly beginning to move in coordinated patterns again. Both ministers are showing signs of recovery, Dr. Rixmon announced with relief. However, the neurological damage may be permanent. We will not know the full extent for several days. Jake felt a mixture of relief and continued worry. The ministers might survive, but the political damage was already spreading across the galaxy. Humanity's reputation had been forever changed by 60 seconds of spice poisoning. 3 days after the spice incident, Jake Morrison sat in his quarters aboard Nexus Prime, reading reports that painted a picture of galaxy-wide panic. The news had spread faster than anyone could have imagined, and the reactions were both predictable and surprising. His personal communication device buzzed with another urgent message from Earth. General Kate Murphy's face appeared on the small screen, her expression grim. Jake, the situation is getting worse by the hour, she reported from Earth Defense Command headquarters. We have 17 alien trade fleets that have changed course away from human colonies. The Centauri Agricultural Exchange has been canceled. New Geneva's stock market crashed when the Vorthak Empire pulled all investments. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. What about diplomatic damage control? Mixed results, General Murphy admitted. The Galactic News Network is running stories about the species that eats poison. Some outlets are calling us a biological hazard to galactic civilization. Others are fascinated by human toxin resistance. A soft chime indicated another incoming message. Dr. Pete Johnson from the Human Biological Research Institute appeared on a second screen. The scientist looked excited despite the grim circumstances. Jake, you need to see the latest analysis from our xenobiology team, Dr. Johnson said rapidly. We've been working with alien scientists to understand why human spice tolerance is so unusual. Go ahead, Pete, Jake sighed. At this point, it can't get much worse. Actually, it might get better, Dr. Johnson replied, activating a data display. The alien medical teams have discovered something remarkable about human biology. Our tolerance for capsaicin, caffeine, alcohol, and other compounds isn't just unusual. It's practically impossible by galactic standards, Jake frowned. Meaning what, exactly? Meaning that humans are biological anomalies. Most intelligent species evolve on worlds where toxin exposure is minimal. They develop advanced brains and civilizations precisely because their environments are safe enough to support complex neural development. General Murphy leaned forward on her screen. But Earth was different. Earth was hell, Dr. Johnson confirmed. Compared to most inhabited worlds, our planet is a death trap. Poisonous plants everywhere, dangerous animals, extreme weather, high radiation levels, toxic gases in some regions. Humans had to evolve toxin resistance just to survive long enough to develop intelligence. Jake began to understand the implications. So, we're not just different. We're adapted to conditions that would kill most galactic species. Exactly. And that's creating some very interesting opportunities. Before Dr. Johnson could continue, another message arrived. Minister Yithvar's crystalline form appeared as a hologram in Jake's quarters. Ambassador Morrison, I hope you are well. I am contacting you with both concerning and promising news from the Emergency Council session. I'm listening, Minister, Jake replied formally. The concerning news first. The Protective Alliance, 7 species led by the Aquarian Federation, has formally requested your species be classified as a biological hazard. They want strict contamination protocols for all human contact. Jake felt his heart sink. And the promising news? Minister Yithvar's crystal form shifted colors slightly. What Jake had learned was the equivalent of a smile. The Industrial Cooperation Guild has made a counter-proposal. They want to classify humans as hazardous environment specialists and offer you exclusive contracts for toxic cleanup operations. What kind of cleanup operations? 3 examples have already been submitted, the crystal being explained. The methane refineries of Sector 7 need workers who can survive hydrogen sulfide exposure. The radioactive waste facilities on mining, Station 12, require personnel who won't die from radiation poisoning. And the chemical synthesis plants in the Outer Rim need staff who can handle industrial toxins. Dr. Johnson's screen lit up with excitement. Jake, do you understand what this means? These are jobs that no other species can do. The pay rates would be astronomical because of the hazard premiums. But there's more, Minister Yithvar continued. Military applications are also being discussed. Several defense contractors want to know if humans could survive chemical weapons attacks, operate in poisoned atmospheres, or work in irradiated combat zones. Jake felt overwhelmed by the rapid changes. Minister, what's the current status of the 3 injured ministers? All 3 are conscious and stable, though they will suffer permanent neurological effects. Minister Kithzar can only speak in short sentences now. Minister Veltron's gaseous form occasionally separates randomly. Minister Grokdal has lost most of his sense of taste and smell. The weight of guilt pressed down on Jake's shoulders. I'm sorry they're suffering because of our mistake. Ambassador, they have asked to speak with you. All 3 want to make a public statement about the incident. Before Jake could respond, his door chimed. Lisa Barnes entered, carrying a data tablet and looking more hopeful than she had in days. Jake, you need to see the latest medical reports, she said excitedly. The alien doctors have been analyzing human metabolism, and they've discovered something incredible. She activated her tablet display. Human liver function is off the charts compared to other species. Our kidneys can filter toxins that would destroy alien organs. Our immune systems are so aggressive that most galactic diseases can't even establish infections. General Murphy's voice came from her communication screen. Lisa's right. We've been getting reports from human colonies across the galaxy. Diseases that have plagued alien settlements for decades simply don't affect human colonists. There's more, Lisa continued. Our stomach acid is strong enough to break down compounds that are indigestible to most species. Our intestinal bacteria can actually neutralize some industrial toxins, and our skin can absorb and process certain chemicals without harm. Dr. Johnson nodded enthusiastically. The xenobiologists are calling human digestive systems biological recycling plants. We can consume and safely process materials that would be deadly waste to other species. Minister Yithvar's hologram flickered with interest. This information explains much about your species' capabilities. The Council is beginning to view the Spice incident not as an attack, but as an accidental demonstration of remarkable biological adaptation. Jake began to see the bigger picture. So humans went from being diplomatic newcomers to being potential specialists in hazardous work? Exactly, the Crystal Minister confirmed. The galaxy has toxic waste problems, dangerous mining, operations, and hostile environments that remain unexplored, because no species can survive them. Humans might be the solution to problems that have existed for thousands of years. A priority message alert interrupted the conversation. General Murphy's expression became serious as she read something off-screen. Jake, we just received a formal offer from the Galactic Mining Consortium. They want to hire 10,000 human workers for deep space mining operations in radioactive asteroid fields. The pay is... She paused, checking her numbers. 50 times the standard rate for hazardous duty. Lisa looked at her tablet. And I'm seeing requests from 12 different species asking for human consultation on toxic waste disposal, chemical processing, and environmental cleanup. Minister Yithvar's colors shifted to what Jake recognized as amusement. Ambassador Morrison, it appears that your species' accidental poisoning of 3 ministers may have opened the most lucrative career path in galactic history. Jake sat, back in his chair, overwhelmed by the rapid transformation. In 3 days, we went from diplomatic disaster to specialized workforce? The galaxy always needs someone to do the jobs that are too dangerous for everyone else, Minister Yithvar replied. Until now, those jobs simply couldn't be done. Your species has changed that calculation completely. The implications were staggering. Humanity's biological quirks, their ability to consume toxins for pleasure, had accidentally revealed their potential as the galaxy's hazardous materials specialists. 2 weeks after the spice incident that nearly killed 3 alien ministers, Jake Morrison stood once again in the main council chamber of Nexus Prime. But everything had changed. The chamber was packed with representatives from dozens of species, media crews, and officials from major galactic corporations. The 3 recovered ministers sat in specially modified chairs at the center of the chamber. Minister Kithzar's cracked exoskeleton had healed, but his speech remained limited to short, careful sentences. Minister Veltron existed in a new containment system that helped keep his gaseous form stable when it occasionally separated. Minister Grokdol's massive frame looked smaller somehow, and his once keen senses of smell and taste were permanently damaged. Today, Minister Yithvar announced to the packed chamber, we conclude the investigation into what history will call the Paprika Incident. The 3 affected ministers have requested to speak first. Minister Kithzar rose carefully from his chair. His compound eyes caught the chamber lights as he looked directly at Jake. Human Morrison, he clicked slowly. Your species did not attack the Council. Accident revealed truth about human adaptation. He paused to let his translation device catch up. The Hive Collective line offers formal apology for accusations of biological warfare. Humans are remarkable, not dangerous. Minister Veltron's gaseous form swirled in his containment field. His voice came through the speakers with a slight electronic distortion. The Nebular Federation has studied human biology extensively since our unfortunate encounter with capsaicin. Your species represents evolutionary adaptation to environmental toxicity levels that would exterminate most galactic civilizations. The purple-blue alien's form stabilized as he continued. We do not blame humanity for our ignorance of your dietary requirements. Instead, we are fascinated by your survival capabilities. Minister Grokdul stood slowly, his movements still affected by the neurological damage. The United Clans value strength above all else, he said in a voice rougher than before. Humans possess strength we never imagined, the strength to consume poison for pleasure and survive environments that would kill our finest warriors. He looked directly at Jake and Lisa, who sat in the gallery. We honor your accidental demonstration of human resilience. The United Clans formally request alliance with Earth for hazardous operations our people cannot survive. The chamber buzzed with conversation as the 3 ministers took their seats. Jake felt a mixture of relief and continued guilt. They had forgiven humanity, but they would suffer permanent effects for the rest of their lives. Minister Yithvar called for order. The Council will now hear from the Industrial Cooperation Guild regarding employment opportunities for human workers. A tall, metallic alien stepped forward. Jake recognized Representative Zor Kess from the guild that controlled most dangerous industrial operations in the galaxy. Honored Council, the metallic being announced. The Industrial Cooperation Guild formally presents the Hazardous Environment Employment Protocols. Based on demonstrated human toxin tolerance, we offer exclusive contracts for operations no other species can perform. A holographic display showed industrial facilities across the galaxy, radioactive mining operations on 17 worlds, chemical processing plants in 12 systems, toxic waste disposal facilities serving 46 colonies. Environmental cleanup of polluted planets deemed uninhabitable by current galactic standards. The numbers that appeared on the display made Jake's eyes widen. The pay rates were indeed astronomical. Hazard pay for work that only humans could survive. Additionally, Representative Zorkes continued, we propose the creation of the Human Hazmat Division, a specialized workforce of 10,000 humans initially, expandable to 50,000 within 5 years. Dr. Lisa Barnes had been appointed as Earth's xenobiological advisor after her work helping treat the poisoned ministers. She stood to address the chamber. The Human Hazmat Division sounds promising, she said clearly, but we need safety protocols. Just because humans can survive these environments doesn't mean we should be reckless with human lives. Agreed, rumbled Minister Grokdol. The United Clans will provide the finest protective equipment and medical support for human hazmat workers. Commander Rextor of the Galactic Peace Force stepped forward with his own announcement. The Peace Force requests human consultation for operations in chemically contaminated combat zones and areas affected by biological weapons. Your species' natural resistance could save thousands of alien lives. Jake realized that humanity was being offered a completely new role in galactic civilization, not as junior partners or diplomatic newcomers, but as the only species capable of work that desperately needed doing. Minister Yithvar activated the chamber's main communication system. Ambassador Morrison, Earth Defense Command is standing by for your response to these proposals. General Kate Murphy's image appeared on the massive display screen. Behind her, Jake could see the bustling activity of Earth's command center. Council members, General Murphy announced, Earth accepts the role of hazardous environment specialists for the galactic community. We will establish the Human Hazmat Division and provide trained personnel for toxic waste cleanup, radioactive, material handling, and chemical processing operations. She paused for effect. However, we also established the Human Biological Safety Institute under Dr. Barnes's direction. All human food and cultural items will be properly labeled and regulated to prevent future accidental poisonings. The chamber filled with approving sounds from multiple species. Jake felt a surge of pride in humanity's response to the crisis. But General Murphy wasn't finished. We also announced the opening of Earth's first xenobiological research university, where alien and human scientists will study the biological differences between species. Never again should ignorance lead to accidental harm. Dr. Pete Johnson appeared on a secondary screen from his laboratory on Earth. The research university will also investigate whether human toxin tolerance can be shared with other species through medical treatments or genetic therapy. Minister Yithvar's crystal form chimed with approval. The Council accepts Earth's proposals and formally recognizes humanity as the galaxy's designated hazardous environment specialists. Jake stood to make his final statement as Earth's ambassador to the First Contact Protocols. Soon he would be transitioning to a new role as the first high-risk ambassador, a diplomatic position created specifically for species too biologically dangerous for normal contact. Honored ministers, Jake said formally, humanity regrets the accidental harm caused to ministers Kithzar, Veltron, and Grokdol. We will carry the responsibility of this incident as a reminder to approach interspecies contact with greater caution. He looked around the chamber at the assembled aliens. But we also embrace our new role in the galactic community. Humans have survived by adapting to Earth's hostile environment. Now we offer that adaptation in service to our galactic neighbors. Lisa, Barnes joined him at the speaking platform. The Human Biological Safety Institute will ensure that future cultural exchanges include proper biological compatibility testing. We will also work to develop protective protocols for interspecies contact. As the formal session concluded, Jake reflected on how dramatically everything had changed. 2 weeks ago, humanity had been the eager newcomers hoping to join galactic civilization. Today, they were the indispensable specialists who could work in environments that would kill anyone else. The final image that stuck in Jake's mind was Minister Kithzar approaching him after the session ended. The insect alien moved slowly but determinedly toward the human delegation. Human Morrison, he clicked carefully. One question remains unanswered. Yes, Minister? Your species. consumes capsaicin for pleasure, knowing it causes pain signals? Jake smiled and pulled out a small container from his pocket. Hot sauce he had brought from Earth. He put a few drops on his finger and consumed it casually while the alien minister watched in fascination. Yes, Minister, we call it spicy food, and millions of humans eat it every day. Minister Kithzar's compound eyes reflected the chamber lights as he processed this information. Remarkable. Your species truly is the most terrifying and fascinating in the galaxy, Jake laughed. Wait until you hear about our extreme sports.